All right, so today we're going to talk about the top 5 deer habitat mistakes and how to avoid them. These are in no particular order. Number 1, I'm going with making changes to your property before you know that property. I know better than anyone that when you buy a new property, the excitement and the willingness to make changes to that property and make habitat improvements consumes you. It's all you think about. You want to go out there, you want to plant food plots, you want to hinge cut, you want to put in watering holes, and you do it all at once before you really know what the natural deer movement is on your property. I'm a firm believer that you should take maybe a whole season just to learn your property, hunt the property, see what the natural deer movement is before you decide what changes and improvements you're going to make. I went in when I first bought my property, I made too many changes too soon, and I ended up going back and reconfiguring the entire layout. The changes I made were good, but they didn't create the movement that I needed for potential stand locations, and it ended up hurting my hunting more than helping it. So I'm a firm believer that you should take at least a season, go out there, hunt the land, put up trail cameras, observe what's going on, and figure out what you need to do to help the deer movement on your property before making any changes. Number 2, I'm going with food plots with no cover. Food plots can be the best way to grow your deer herd and help your hunting. If you don't have cover and those deer don't feel secure in those food plots, it could lead to nocturnal usage or no usage at all. Now, nocturnal usage will still help your deer herd, help you grow the herd and help the overall health of your herd, but it's not going to help your hunting. Make sure that when you put in a food plot, you plan what kind of cover they're going to have in that food plot, which can be screening with Egyptian wheat or something more permanent like a switchgrass. Now, along with the screening, another way that's going to make that food plot more secure is limiting the human intrusion. Limiting human intrusion on that food plot is a very important way to make the deer feel more secure and use that plot during daylight hours when you can capitalize during hunting season. The access into the stand location surrounding that plot leads me into my next point. Number 3, I have poor access and entering too far onto your property. This especially is important on a small parcel. One of the first things you should do on your property is determine your access points. After you determine your access points for different wind directions, then you can determine your stand locations and camera locations. You don't want to be walking in a few hundred yards to check cameras or to get to your stand, especially on a small property. If you're coming in 300 yards to get to your stand or check a camera, you're way too deep in that property. You've already pushed deer out of that property that you didn't even see, you didn't even know were there. Make sure you develop access for each potential wind direction. Number 4 goes with number 3, bad stand locations. This has a lot to do with access. If you have bad access into your stand, you're going to spook deer before you even make it to your tree. Stand locations should obviously be based off of the potential wind directions that you plan to hunt. If you have perfect access and then you climb up into your stand and your scent's being blown directly into a bedding area, you just ruin your great access. Stand locations should also relate to the other improvements that you've made on your property, such as food plots, bedding areas, mineral sites. You need to use those improvements to draw the deer movement past your potential stand sites. So it starts with determining your best access, then you want to influence the movement of those deer with the improvements. So it all needs to relate. Your access to your stand, what your stand is relating to the improvements that you've made, which is going to influence that deer movement and give you the best opportunity during hunting season. This leads me to number 5, the wrong improvements for your property. Implementing every habitat improvement that you see online is very tempting and it sounds very good. But if your property doesn't need those improvements, you can do more harm than good to your hunting. Also, making the correct improvements that are in the wrong locations and don't relate to one another could also decrease your deer settings during hunting season. Habitat improvements should be mapped out in a way that influences the deer movement the way you want it and the way it's going to benefit your hunting. Making random, scattered improvements to your land is going to lead to random, scattered, and inconsistent deer movement. It's going to be nearly impossible to pattern a mature buck, much less any other deer, if you have improvements scattered across your property and you can't determine where that movement is going to be. Now let's say you've made the right improvements, they all relate to each other, and they draw that movement past your deer stands. But those improvements are competing with what your neighbors are already offering or what nature is already offering. For example, if you border ag fields, is planting a small plot of corn and soybeans really worth it? Probably not. If it does get used, it's going to get grazed very, very quickly and not enough to make a difference. If there's a natural stream that runs near your border on the neighboring property, is putting a small watering hole really going to influence that movement for you? Chances are it won't, at least not enough to make a noticeable difference in your hunting. You want to focus on improvements that the deer in your area are lacking, or improvements that your neighboring property can't offer. If you're making improvements that the deer aren't using and they're not helping your herd, I don't think that those are improvements at all. I hope these tips will help you save time, money, and help you to improve your hunting. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, send me a message on Instagram, or send me an email. Thanks for checking it out. And always make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on your notifications.